Hey everybody, this video is going to help us unlock some of the secrets surrounding C++ friends of classes. We can do several things with friends of classes, and what we'll focus on here is friend functions. Friend functions are probably the most common um, application of the friend process in C++. So what exactly is a friend? Well, it's kind of a lot like a friend that you might have in normal life. If this is your house and this is a direct representation of an object, normally anyone inside the house will have the ability to access all of those private member variables and all of the methods. What a friend does is it's like you're giving a friend over here a key to the front door. Try and draw a key here. A key to the front door, and this friend can come into your house anytime and eat your food and watch your TV. But they're not a member of the house. Or another way to say that is they're not a member of the class. So a friend is going to do exactly that. It will allow some entity outside the class to get full access to the class, including direct access to the private member variables. Normally, you've got to be a member of the class to have access to those private member variables. So a friend is going to be someone that we just give the key to. And they can come in, we trust them, we know that they will lock the door on their way out, and they'll generally be well behaved. So in our coding, we can declare friends. And in this case, I'm going to kind of step through an example here where we have our goat class, right? Okay, and then here's just all of our code for that. But we want to have the ability, in this case, to have an output function that's just part of our main program. So over here, we've got main, and we want, here's a prototype void output goat. And we want to be able to, out here, right here in this normal, C++ main program function, not a member of the class. It's not a method member of the class. It's just a standalone everyday function, part of our main program. We want right here to be able to directly access these private member variables over here. Normally, again, we can't do that because we're outside of the class. We would have to use the appropriate getters in order to do that. Well, we can bypass the getters requirement and directly access those elements by making it a friend function. So this output goat function right here, that's what we would say, okay, this is a friend. We're going to allow this to come into our house, use our data, and we know it's going to be well behaved because we're authorizing it. So that's sort of what we're going to go for here. And then in our main program, we would call output goat, just like we would, output array or output, anything. And it'll still work, and it'll still directly access those private member variables because it's going to be declared as a friend. So now with our syntax, in order to do this, we've got a couple of steps to do. The first is, let's go ahead and create that output function. Something like this. And of course, we are going to have to give it a goat object. It's going to need something to output here. So we'll always send we'll give it a goat object. We'll send it by constant reference as just a good matter of practice. Okay, here's our formal parameter name of G. And when all of this is done, we will, inside our code here, be able to directly access these goats private member elements such as g.name, g.age, g.gender, and color, and so forth. we will be able to do this rather than being required to use an authorized interface method such as a getter, okay? So that's how we would go and do our function definition in our main program. And then a function call for that is just going to, look very simple like this. And that looks like a normal function call, and it looks like a normal passing of an object to a function. All right, so again, this right here, that is going to be our function call. This is going to be our function definition. And then we'll, of course, need a little bit more glue over in our class in order to give it the keys to the house. Now, what would we do in that case? Well, let's take a look. For declaring this a friend, what we'll do here, this is in our class. Then at the place where we would normally put an output type of a prototype, here in our public method declaration, normally we would have a prototype that would look like this, void output goat. And we'd have open close parentheses. And since it's a private member method or a class method, that'll give it direct access. But in this case, it's not a class method. We're doing it outside the class. So what we do is we just put the word friend in front, showing that, okay, wherever output goat is defined, it is a friend function. And then of course, we'll need to make sure that we pass our goat object by reference. And that's all we would need to do for declaring this function output goat as a friend of the class. So 3 big things to do. One is, of course, we define it. The second is when we call it, making sure that the parameters are being passed just fine. And then the third thing is in the class itself, we declare it as a friend. So I've got some code, of course, and this code's posted in Canvas. And let's go through that code. Sort of gives us a live working example here. All right, so here is our goat class. And down here in our public methods, I've got a little section for other methods. And this is normally where you would have an output goat. Here I've declared this one, though, a friend function. So wherever that gets defined, it's going to be given the keys to this house. It's going to give full access to the private member variables in these objects. All right, so we will scroll down now, and here is my function definition for output goat. Note again that this is not a member of the class, but because it's a friend, we have direct access to all of the private member variables, and we don't need to use getters. Now here we have, of course, the formal parameter named G, and this parameter aligns with the prototype that we did up in the class. And then you'll see here inside this function, we can access those private member variables directly, g.name. Otherwise, we have to go g.getName and wait for that return value to come back and code our things that way. Now, the question would be, well, then why would we want to do this? Why would we want to make a friend class like this for, when we can just use a getter and we're used to getters? Well, in very large applications, we would want to, give friend access as much as we can, as much as we allow ourselves, and as much as, it makes sense to permit, keeping security principles in mind. But keep in mind, every time that we do a function call, like get name or get age or get color, that adds processing overhead, doesn't it? It's a function call, it gets put onto the stack. Pointers get created to show where in the program we got to return to. Pointers get created for referencing what method variables might need to be created. And then all those, of course, are pushed onto the stack. There's a lot of overhead here. So just like in the spirit of using inline functions in our code to dramatically cut down the processing overhead, this is the same thing. It's going to dramatically cut down the processing overhead because there's no function call. Okay, we're not actually calling a function. We're just accessing that element. So then down here in our main program, if we were ready to output the goat, well, then we would just call it like that. Normally it would be goat1.output goat, but here we're just calling output goat, sending it a goat object, and it prints it out. Now then here is the output in this case, and we get the 3 goat objects successfully output. So we do see that that this friend function is working for us. So that's really all we need to kind of cover for friend functions. Try it. You'll see this in lab 5.2 that we'll need to do this work. And good luck. Post your messages on the discussion board if necessary, and I'll see you back online. Thanks, everybody.